Every collision at sea shares one common factor. At some point, someone failed to determine whether a risk of collision existed. Rule 7. Risk of collision. It tells you exactly how to make that determination. Get it right, and you take action early. Get it wrong, or ignore it, and you end up in an inquiry. In this video, I'll break down Rule 7 completely, what it requires, the tools it authorizes, and the one mistake officers make that Rule 7 explicitly forbids. Let's go. Rule 7 sits under Part B, Section 1 of the COLREGS, the rules that apply to vessels in any conditions of visibility. That means Rule 7 applies in clear visibility, restricted visibility, day and night, no exceptions. The rule opens with this: every vessel shall use all available means appropriate to the prevailing circumstances and conditions to determine if risk of collision exists. All available means, not some means, not the means you find convenient, all available means. This is the standard you are held to. What are those means? The rule gives explicit guidance. If there is any doubt, radar shall be used. Not may be used, shall be used. Even in clear visibility. Even when you can see the other vessel with your own eyes. Radar gives you something your eyes cannot. A plotted track. Speed, course, CPA, TCPA. Your eyes give you a bearing and a rough estimate. Radar gives you data. The rule also specifies that radar plotting or equivalent systematic observation of detected objects shall be undertaken. This is ARPA, or manual plotting. Not a glance at the radar screen. Systematic observation, tracked over time. The compass bearing test. Rule 7 gives us the primary method for determining risk of collision at sea: compass bearing. If the compass bearing of an approaching vessel does not appreciably change, risk of collision shall be deemed to exist. This is the most important sentence in Rule 7. A vessel on a steady bearing is on a collision course with you. It does not matter how far away it is. It does not matter that it looks slow. Steady bearing, decreasing range. That is a collision in progress. Appreciably change means a clear, measurable shift, not 1 or 2 degrees. If you are taking bearings every 3 minutes and the vessel moves from 045 to 046 to 045 again, that bearing is not changing appreciably. Risk of collision exists. If the bearing is changing, say from 045 to 050 to 057, the vessel is passing ahead or astern. Risk of collision may not exist, but you continue to monitor.
The Rule 7 Prohibition. Rule 7 contains a specific prohibition, and this is where many officers fail in oral examinations. The rule states, assumptions shall not be made on the basis of scanty information, especially scanty radar information. Scanty information. A single radar observation, one bearing taken 5 minutes ago, the fact that you can see the vessel's green sidelight. None of these are sufficient. The rule demands systematic observation, multiple bearings plotted over time, yielding a clear picture of CPA and TCPA. In practice, this means if you see a contact on radar, you do not look at it once and decide there is no risk. You track it, you plot it. You get a CPA. If the CPA is uncomfortably small, say under 2 miles, you treat risk of collision as existing and begin applying the relevant steering and sailing rules. Large vessel special case. Rule 7 also notes that risk of collision may exist even when an appreciable bearing change is evident, particularly in the case of a very large vessel, a tow, or when approaching a vessel at close range. A supertanker may appear to be passing clear on bearing alone, but if you are closing to within 1 mile, the sheer size of the vessel creates risk. Rule 7 requires you to factor this in. Practical application. What OOW oral examiners want to hear. If an examiner asks you, how do you determine if a risk of collision exists? Your answer should cover 4 points. 1. I use all available means. Lookout, radar, AIS, VHF if necessary. 2. I take systematic compass bearings on the approaching vessel at regular intervals, every 3 minutes minimum. 3. I obtain a radar plot or use ARPA to determine CPA and TCPA. 4. If the bearing is not appreciably changing, or if CPA is uncomfortably small, I treat risk of collision as existing and apply the relevant rules 13, 14, 15 to determine which vessel gives way. That answer demonstrates that you understand not just the rule, but how to apply it. That is the difference between a pass and a fail. Summary. Rule 7 requires you to use all available means to determine risk of collision. Radar shall be used if there is any doubt. Systematic plotting, not a single glance, is mandatory. A steady compass bearing on an approaching vessel means risk of collision exists. Assumptions on scanty information are explicitly forbidden. Subscribe to Maritime with Morrow for more COLREGS breakdowns every Tuesday and Saturday. Next video, Rule 8, Action to Avoid Collision. Fair winds and safe sailing.